As Fiji advances technologically and embraces the global internet culture, internet cafes have flourished, giving people easy access to video games. Children as young as 4 can now walk into any internet cafe and play whatever games are available. That clip is just one of many video game companies use to attract people to their games. But what effects do these games have on our minds?
But I've been gaming since, I think, class 1, that was 94, 95, something like that. It only affected me when I was in tertiary, USP, and I started to take gaming too seriously. Couple of times I didn't go to class because we used to play this game, World of Warcraft.
A longtime gamer Mike Raymond considered opening an internet cafe for gaming, but decided against it.
Cut a long story short, I think it has a bad effect on kids. For me, I didn't want to be responsible parent, because I'm a parent, and be responsible for kids failing school. Because I tell you something, these games do have a bad effect on children and their schoolwork. I mean, you see kids in the internet, most internet cafes, straight after school, they just jam-packed.
Individuals who play video games, it feeds a reward center in their brain. And this reward center releases a happy hormone called dopamine. And so that's how the addiction starts. As the person starts playing the game and whatever aspects of the game that becomes rewarding for them, what happens in this process, in the addiction process, is that the person believes that they need whatever it is that they're purchasing. They need it, and they become dependent on it. And once you create dependency, you got the hook, you got the person is bought into it, so the dependency is there, and it's a psychological dependency. And the more the person wants and needs, they'll stay in the game forever.
When you say it became a problem in tertiary, how often did you play in tertiary?
Whenever I could, sometimes when after classes, I used to go, there's this gaming center down in town, Cyberzone. It was on top, Victoria Arcade, it was on top. I used to play there every time, sometimes even before class, and then eventually I started skipping class just to go and play games. I wasn't really into games like that much before, and then when I met up with friends that were hardcore gamers, and then I started playing. We used to play midnight. We used to play all-nighters. We used to do all-nighters. It was from 7 to 7 in the morning.
I think the graphics, quite incredible. The people behind it. But see, that's the catch. It's the graphics, but there's more to it. It's like you get hooked on. You can get hooked on a game. I mean, like me, I'm a big kid, so I'm hooked on games. But I think financially it's not good. I mean, kids are constantly going to be looking for money to play this game. And the other bad side to it, I think, in an internet cafe, you have these young kids who are desperate to play, so desperate that they steal. They steal mobiles, they steal purses, they steal external drives or people, and they're going to sell it to play the game. So they might steal a $900. And I know this for a fact, I've seen it, a $900 calculator, and they'll sell it for $50 just to play. for one afternoon or one weekend. There's the positive side and the negative side. It's how much you want to get involved in the game and whether you can control yourself. Like for me now at this stage, I can control it, you know, and know my limits, know when to go home. But when I first started, I mean, I used to play like 2 nights in a row and don't sleep and don't eat.
Even during school hours, a couple of times I came to the gaming center. School kids were there playing in their uniforms.
And the other sad thing is that kids get lunch money for school. They don't eat. They spend their lunch money on games, you know.
What happens is that an individual who becomes addicted to video games, it affects their physiology in some way. For example, some people tend to eat more. They tend to eat more of the wrong kinds of foods in front of the computer. They don't have regular routine of eating, so their metabolism is affected. And we know that that's how, for those individuals, they gain more weight. For others, it's the opposite. They tend to eat less because they become so wrapped up in the game that they're not eating enough at a regular time, and so you've got malnutrition setting in. Sleep deprivation, accumulative sleep deprivation, that affects people's ability to concentrate and function the next day at work or at school. Productivity drops. Motivation for doing things outside of the room where they play their game also drops. So, for example, if you have a young person who is addicted to a particular game and they also go to school, you'll find that their progressive or academic progress decreases as their addiction to the game increases.
In the US, recent shootings have been attributed to violent video games. Can you elaborate on this?
For many people, there is an underlying psychological issue, and that hasn't really been fully expressed. And so the video games allow them to I suppose, touch base with whatever the problem is. And for some people, it's an escape from violence in the home, or it's an escape from somebody who's belittling them or having some more emotional control over them. And so in order to gain back their power, they become part of this virtual world. So those two worlds then became blurred, and the lines between them became blurred. And whatever anger that they may be feeling, they would use what they've learned in the video games in the real world.
Think about what you have to lose.
Call of Duty is among the popular games played by children in Fiji. Another popular game is Grand Theft Auto.
What is it?
Grand Theft Auto.
Yes, I've seen that. I mean, a lot of the young kids here play that game, and it is sick. It's a sick game. It's really violent. You create this character that runs around, hits everybody, and kills everybody, runs over people and bashes up old women, and it's ridiculous. That game should be bloody banned.
You get to be this gangster who walks around the city in the game. Get to be this gangster walking around the city, doing whatever you want. You can go rob a bank or whatever, kill a cop.
So the individual is forming a relationship with the characters that whom they become or play with. That relationships with real people suffer. So there's the lack of intimacy, lack of communication takes place, and of course, in some cases, particularly with the violent video games, the individual becomes desensitized to violence in the real world.
We haven't really seen the impact of video games in this country, and I'm pretty sure that the government still lacks resources, still lacks the expertise to actually look into this. We don't have organizations or people who conduct regular surveys to actually identify or maybe to monitor and evaluate what's happening to children who play video games, especially violent video games.
Archie Enko is the manager of a popular internet cafe in Centrepoint and has previously managed internet cafes in Nambour and Garden City.
In our first year of business, I had plenty problems when it comes to kids. Because sometimes, automatically, if they come in uniform, I don't allow them. Second, sometimes they come in civilian, and you don't know if they're students or they're not. So that's not my fault anymore because they're not in uniform. Let's face it, we're running a business. So obviously, you need to have everything because otherwise, it's a word of mouth. Eh? Oh, don't go there. They don't have this. They don't have that. It doesn't mean we have it. We are supporting it. No, it's the parents' fault why kids are not at home on time. They don't go to school on time. Parents should beat them up, man. You know, I mean, if I have some kids, before 5 o'clock strikes, they're like so scared. Like, come on, man, let's go home, let's go home. And their friends still there because the parents are relaxed, so they're not scared. Come on, man, if you're not coming, I'm leaving. Because they know their parents will beat them up, you know?
There are many good games out there, although I have to admit I can't remember one single good game right now. But there are games that teach a child how to problem solve, how to do maths, how to spell, etc. So these are the games I think that parents should be offering children rather than the games that children learn how to use a weapon. It's about the right time. So when do you give the children these video games at the right time, right age? When I say time, I mean the age. So if they're 3 years old and they're able to, I mean, some 3-year-olds are able to do this, play, you know, using a keyboard, for example. If you provide them with the right kind, meaning there is an educational philosophy behind the game. So they're learning maths, they're learning language, they're learning problem solving, reading, those kinds of things.
First of all, it keeps you away from, me, it kept me away from clubbing. Sometimes when friends call me, hey, we go clubbing. No, man, I'm doing something. You know, it's like you want to go in-house. I'm not being anti-social because while I'm here, all my friends are here too. You can't say, oh, you gang are losers, you gang are geeks. We're not geeks. Because the thing is, we face it. In Fiji, not much things to do. It's either we go out movies or we go out clubbing. What else to do? Nothing. So, might as well do something to save your liver.
Well, I mean, there are other activities that they can actually do. I mean, you have some outdoor activities that kids can actually do, you know, games that they can go and play. For my kids, sometimes they will go places, go for a picnic, or we go swimming with family and friends, taking them to, you know, zip ride. We've been there a couple of times and the kids enjoy it.
Archie provides employment for some regular gamers by allowing them to farm online gold and sell it for real money.
The rates in perfect world, in Fijian dollars, it will be like, for 1 million, it will be like $2.50 Fijian. Let's say, there's one place here called Zen. If you work in Zen for 1 hour, you get paid 3 million. So in Fiji money, it's 750 Fijian. So what we do, when one of these gang do the service, then they get paid. We pay them directly, 750 Fijian.
So what can parents do to safeguard their children from being exposed to violent video games?
They are buying these games, they need to know exactly what they're buying. They also need to know the content of what they're buying. And I'm assuming that with these games there is a little blurb that will say, you know, something about for mature audiences only or something like that. There would be a rating, so they should know that what the rating means.
What I've seen in the last couple of years, Fiji is very much behind in terms of putting in legislation in place. In terms of games that are being released into the market, we don't have any legislation that actually deals with the classification of games. When you have a lot of children who are actually going into, you know, internet cafes, they're playing some games which is rated for mature adults.
See, parents, no point going to the police or threatening us owners of the shop that you will complain to wherever, even to Vamarasi, about your kids. You gang should discipline your own kids. If your kids don't go home on time, that means your kids are not scared of you as parents, which means you fail as being parents. Kids, from young, they should be scared of their parents. If actually, not scared. That's not the wrong term. Kids should respect their parents. If they don't go on time or they don't follow what you guys are doing, that means you're failed parents. Because they don't respect you, gang. And you can't say, I mean, but the easiest way is, I think the easiest way to do is to discipline them. At least, yeah, hit them sometimes. If you can't hit them, cut their allowance. You cut their lifeline. If they have no money, they can't go anywhere. They'll stay at home. If they go out, they have no money, they can't buy food outside. So they're gonna stay home and eat at home. From school, straight home. Just like that. Don't blame other people for being failed parents.
What is your message to parents who have kids who play violent video games?
I believe that, like any other addiction, there needs to be some awareness raising in the community, and that counselors, particularly trainee counselors, it's something maybe USP needs to look at, is to include that in our curriculum so that we are aware that, because this is something emerging, that we are aware that there are young people out there who have been through this, and maybe they can help us provide, a checklist of what are some of the signs and symptoms. So there, at the moment, I don't think there's anything out there, except if, of course, if the young person is physiologically and psychologically damaged, and the parents are able to afford counseling from an appropriately trained counselor.
In terms of supervision and all that, children sometimes are left at home while the circumstances may be different for different people. I still feel that a lot of parents need to pull out their socks and to monitor where their children are. I still feel that a lot of parents turn a blind eye to what's actually happening and hoping that it will just disappear or go away. For me personally as a parent, I'm responsible for my children. If something happens to them, I'll be the one who will answer for it.
Video games are becoming more and more popular among children in Fiji. As a parent, it is important to know which games your children are playing and whether or not they are appropriate. There are simple ways in ensuring that children are not exposed to the negative effects of video games, like simply changing the settings. Video games can be good for children, provided they are monitored and the right kind.